Welcome back to KDLT Sports Extra Points, our video blog. We've taken our summer break, hence the reason I look like I'm out of a cabana and a little
nice
pink.
Nice to meet you, Don Ho.
This guy has the best humor in this market.
Would you please go get me a margarita? I could use one of those.
You and me both, quite frankly.
All right. Well, let's talk first, and then we'll get the margarita.
Very good call there. We are back because football season is coming back. It's for us, it's the time of the year now where summer is kind of ending for us, although for most of you, you still have another month when football season starts. When the Vikings report to training camp, that's kind of always the signal that it's time to get going again. The Vikings report basically on Thursday. They'll practice for the first time on Friday. So what are we expecting from this year's version of the Vikings? They have 5 first-round draft picks on the roster this year.
It's hard to say. They're in such a good conference, such a good division, that it's going to be hard for them to do really well. When you consider that I think Detroit's going to be much improved. They slid last year, and I thought they were going to be pretty good last year. But I think they're going to be that much better this year. Green Bay's got Aaron Rodgers back healthy. And, you know, the Bears, I like some of the moves the Bears made in the offseason. And last year, you know, if they can just get some consistency out of the quarterback spot, whether it's based on injury or whatever, if Jay Cutler's healthy, they'll be fine. But Brandon Marshall's he's just a stud. And so how will the Vikings do? It's hard to say. I think there's reason for optimism based on some of the little things we saw last year. If Patterson can work his way into the offense a little bit more and not just be, you know, a kick returner. They saw that he can do some incredible things at the end of last year. And I think he'll be a real key because you just can't win with Adrian Peterson running for 180 yards a game. You can't win with that. You have
and he'll get beat up too. He'll be, if you have to rely on him to be the rock all the time, he's going to be by week 10 probably exhausted.
Yeah, but also the key, you know, Patterson and all the other receivers is the quarterback spot. And I like Matt Castle. I think he's a very serviceable backup. You know, he was with my Patriots for all those years, and when he finally got the chance to play when Brady got hurt in Game 1 the one year, he was 11-5, and they missed the playoffs at 11-5, but he was good. Didn't do as well with Kansas City. I thought when he got the chance to play last year, he was fine, and I thought he was the guy that needed to be in there last year to give them their best chance to win. But is he the guy out of the gates to start the season? Probably not. I mean, 8-8 maybe, but, you know, Viking fans, any NFL fan of a team wants their team to be better than 8-8. Yeah. Well, 8-8's average.
It's inevitable we're probably going to see Bridgewater, isn't it? I mean, this is kind of the era now where first-round picks, they used to sit on the bench for a year. That's really not the case anymore with the kind of money that gets thrown around.
Well, I think they'll just see how he does. At one point in time, it was an interesting pick because at one point in time he was considered the most NFL-ready of all the college quarterbacks. Last year, at the beginning of his senior year, everybody thought he was going to be the #1 draft pick. Yep. And I'm trying to think of what number it was they picked him at, but it was late. Yeah, it was
they traded up to get him.
Right at the end of the first round, and who would have ever thought he would have fallen that far, which makes you wonder why. I mean, why would all those other teams not pick him too?
Including the Vikings. They had an earlier pick. I think I think they had 2 earlier picks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they did. So that's obviously going to be a key is what kind of, you know, what are they going to get out of that quarterback spot? Defensively, I thought, you know, they made some nice strides last year. Obviously with Chad Greenway in the middle, he's you can count on him for 150 tackles, and Chad's just turned out to be a great NFL player. We had Brian Robinson on our Calling All Sports the other day as he was getting ready to leave the next day to drive up to camp from Texas, and he's going to miss, you know, the 2 guys that he's been running next to for the last several years. Hard to believe he's been in the league 8-9 years already, but I think there's kind of a renewed enthusiasm because of the fact that they've got a new coach. Yep, and I think there's just a new atmosphere that hopefully transcends itself into the team playing well again. Because when you're not, I mean, last year for a while, that was off. That
was rough.
Yeah.
Well, myself and Max Jensen are going down on Friday. We'll have some reports for you on training camp on Friday at 6 and 10 with Mark obviously anchoring. And as we keep getting going, obviously more of the local teams, state, U, we'll start previewing them here, and the high school scene as well. Unfortunately, we don't really have a whole lot to carry us over until football season starts because it's been a rough year for the Canaries and Twins. Canaries, the bright side has at least been, I think, Sam Lind, who's had a pretty good year, but it looks like for, I think the third, fourth straight year, neither team is really going to provide us with any hope of anything to watch, at least in terms of playoff baseball.
But the fans have still been turning out for the Canaries. It's been amazing. A couple of weekends ago, they had 11,000 for the three-game series, and that's great. So, hats off to the Canaries front office and their salespeople for getting people out there. I feel bad for Steve Shirley. The guy has turned out to be a really good friend over the years, and he played in the majors for a long time. He's just a great baseball man, lots of stories. I hope he can weather this. But after their loss today, they're 22-44. That's just not very good. And they're a legitimate 22-44. They're not, it's not like they just haven't gotten it together. They don't have that big basher like they've always had in the past. I think that has hurt them. Now, they lost a couple, 2-3 guys that they thought they were going to have on their team right before the season started to different organizations, and that really killed them. But, you got to dance with who you brought, and the dance hasn't gone so well.
And they've lost a lot of close. I think their record in one-run games is like 9-25. So they've had a lot of chances, and like you said, even when they do get hitting, then the pitching kind of goes away.
They just find ways to lose. It's just when you're having a bad year, you find ways to lose. It's like when you're golfing and you get on a bogey train, you find ways to make bogeys, and when it's going that way for a baseball team, I think it's almost something that you just want the season to get over. So Twins, on the other hand, I think, they've had flashes of I don't want to say brilliance, but they've looked really good at times. I like what Phil Hughes has brought to the team. I was kind of excited about that because he was always considered the next great Yankee pitcher, and he's been really good for them. Correa, on the other hand, I think leads the majors in losses.
Could be on his way to 20.
It's just odd how it seems like every time they sign somebody from the National League, it doesn't work out. It might work out for a short period of time. Correa wasn't bad last year. This year, he's not been very good.
Even Nolasco, too, has been up and down.
Nah, he's been bad.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been a big disappointment. He was supposed to be their top of the rotation guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Glenn Perkins, Brian Dozier, they've been great. They've been the highlights of the team. Suzuki, I think, is going to be gone here at the trading deadline. I think you've got to trade him and get back some more prospects or good young players because they're not going to make the playoffs this year. They got a good young catcher in the system. Suzuki's really been good, though. Hate to see them trade him because they've not only not lost a beat by moving Mauer to first base, they're actually better behind the plate with Suzuki.
I think there's no question there. And they've got a lot of young prospects who we're probably going to start to see a little bit of in September. And as those guys elevate, hopefully we're going to see a return eventually to some postseason or at least contending baseball at Target Field.
I'd say 2 years from now. I think they're going to be a team that's fighting for the playoffs, but I don't know if next year they're going to be quite ready. They lost that slugging third baseman for the year, Sano.
I think Buxton's been hurt too.
Buxton hasn't had the kind of year. He's still considered the top prospect in all of baseball, and Sano would probably be a top 10 prospect.
If they could get like to within 82, 85, 86 wins, maybe just be in it next year, then you can maybe start to raise that expectation of let's get to the playoffs in 2 years, like you said.
When you think about how many years in a row they made the playoffs without having a star-studded team, it's quite an accomplishment for Ron Gardenhire and Terry Ryan and with what they've done there. And the Twins over the last 30 years have had some real low points, but then they build it back up, and they're fine for a chunk of time because the guys they build it back up with are young enough and they stay together long enough because the team still has control over them for 4 or 5 more years, that they're in good shape. And hopefully that's about what's going to happen again.
We'll be back eventually, probably around the time the local colleges start having their media day to talk it up. Football season and Football Friday. I don't think either of us are quite ready for it yet.
It's not that close. It's still summer.
Here.
No, these guys can go to camp. They can go to practice. It doesn't get that crazy for us until August 29th when the high school football season starts. That's when it gets busy.
About 4 weeks.
That's more than that. It's 5 weeks.
We're going to enjoy the summer until there.
5 weeks.
He's the boss. For Mark Ovenden, I'm Zach Borg. We'll see you next time on Extra Points.